Welcome to Brandstorm, the podcast that talks to the people behind America's brands. I'm Dan Trzynski, president of Platypus Advertising and Design.
And I'm Nancy Christopher, PR director at Platypus. We've all heard about internet radio stations like Pandora, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio, but why should your brand pay attention to them? Today we're talking to an entrepreneur who has started his own local internet station. Please welcome Elzie Flenard, general manager of WQYL-DB Radio. Hi, Elzie.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, Dan. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great. So how does internet radio work, and what are the benefits?
Quite simply, internet radio works just the same as terrestrial radio, except it's on the internet. Some of the benefits of it, I like to use the 3 C's: to connect, communicate, and cultivate your audience, or your tribe, as we like to call it.
Why did you create WQYL-DB? Is there any significance to those call letters? And what was the inspiration to saying, why are you doing this?
Yes. So I get that question a lot. And you would think by now I would have come up with a
better
cool
answer.
answer or thing. But really, the W stands for, in terrestrial or traditional radio, any station that's west of the Mississippi carries the W.
East.
So east of it. Yeah.
Yes,
so
there you
so
go.
that's where the W comes from. The QYL is completely random. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do I call this thing? It's like, okay, WQYL. Sounds good. And I just roll with it.
Roll off the tongue type of thing. It's good enough reason as any, right?
No question.
So what kinds of content do you stream?
Most of it is original content. I describe our station as a podcast station because most of the shows that we carry and run are also podcasts. And what's funny is when I first started Enterprise Now, which is the podcast that I host, it was a radio station that also had a podcast. But as I got more deeper into podcasting, I kind of fell in love with it. And now Enterprise Now is a podcast that doubles as a radio station or a radio show. And so most of the shows that are on the station are the same way.
For those of us who don't really quite know the difference, what's the difference between a podcast and streaming?
So streaming, there are kind of 3 different things, right? So there's the internet radio, and then there's streaming, and then there's podcasting. So streaming is when you hit play, and it's more on demand. So I could go to TuneIn, for example, and select which radio show I want to listen to. So that's streaming. Internet radio is more similar to terrestrial radio in that you have a time and a place. On demand is exactly what it says. It's on demand. It's when I want to hear it and how and where. So
I've been on WQYL-DB. I've tuned in a bunch of times because I find it fascinating. I hit the listen now button, and I could be in the middle of a show. It could be just like you're turning your radio on. But can I then find past episodes? Is there an on-demand component? I don't remember seeing that.
To my show, there is, but for most of the shows on there, they do have podcasts, but they're not linked from the station.
Okay.
So WQIL is kind of a hybrid. It's a podcast station.
Sure.
So it's not on demand, but it is streaming. But if you tune into my show, it is on demand. So there's kind of a mix that we have going on.
So tell us a little bit more about your show.
That's what I wanted to know. What is Enterprise Now?
So
it's a loaded question because I was a guest once,
yes.
So I do know.
I am a entrepreneur junkie. I love business. I love talking with entrepreneurs, business owners. And so I'm sitting at my whiteboard, my vision board one day, and I'm thinking of what's next? What can I do that will scratch this itch that I have? And so I said, I really love talking about business. I love meeting new people. I love talking business and entrepreneurship. So why don't I start a radio station talking about business and talking to entrepreneurs? And so that's how Enterprise Now came about, and loving every minute of it.
Yeah, it's a great show. I love the guests, and it's a lot of smaller businesses and startups and, what inspired them. So definitely urge our listeners to tune into that one.
And what's cool about it is we have a really good mix of entrepreneurs. I've had people on who are literally just starting. They don't even have a website yet. And I've had multi-million-dollar business owners. So it's a really cool mix of new guys and guys who've been around the block a little bit. I just like to work with people who share the passion that I share for whatever it is. It could be for pets or dogs or whatever. I recognize passion, and when I get around it, it excites me and it gets me up in the morning. So as many people that I can surround myself with that have that passion, that zeal, and that love for the game of business, come my way. We want to work with you.
Elzie, what's on WQYL-DB?
So I'll give you a couple of examples of shows that we have. One of them that I'm really proud about, they're out of Plymouth, Wisconsin. It's called The Biz Connection. And it's a business show, and they talk about business. And I really like their format. They always do like a history of a business owner and entrepreneur. And it's really cool because, one, it's local to Wisconsin. And I actually got a chance to meet a couple of fine gentlemen, been in radio for years, kind of served sort of as a mentor of sorts when I was getting started out. So that's one of them. We have a couple of sports-focused shows. Dream Sports, which is more of a business management lean, where he wants to uncover the business behind the sports. For example, the statistician or the sports medicine person, and figure out how they got to where they are in the sports arena versus just the athletic track. We have an evolving chair show. It's a kind of a psychologist type show. That's really all I can say because it's kind of above my head, but I do know that that's kind of the theme of it. We have franchise interviews, and his lean is he talks with franchises, and he has tons of information on how to start a franchise. Why would you want to do a franchise versus starting your own brand new business? We have the Saved in the City, which is, as its name suggests, it talks about current issues, topics, pop culture from a Christian worldview. Awesome show.
It really is. I walked past the pod room when they're recording, and they have a great time.
Yeah, they have a blast for sure.
They do.
A couple of other ones. One of our more popular shows, Vinny and the Alien Show. It's a variety show, and judging by Dan's response,
Is it about aliens?
It's sort of. They're really funny.
You'd like
so
that.
If you have a chance, check it out. It's quite entertaining. And then, of course, there's my show. It's a business show. Then finally, we have Today's Christian Music. It's just a music show. So as you can see, there's a really good mix of different types of shows. Everything from pop culture to the Alien Show to Evolving Chair. Yeah, so it's a really good mix of different types of content, and that's really what we want. We want a different variety. So when you tune in, you can have a different experience as you listen throughout your day.
Is there a particular type of show that you're looking to add to the station?
Yeah, one thing that I'm really wanting is more like a pop culture variety show where 2 or 3 folks just in a room talking about what's happening in the world and just kind of adding their personality and their banter. Those seem to be doing very well right now. So a show like that would be a really good fit for us.
That seems like it would be fun to do, too.
Yes.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Just shoot the...
Yeah.
You know what?
And there's plenty to talk about.
You can say bull.
Oh, that's right. That's legal especially on internet radio, right?
Elzie, are there any rules to internet radio? I mean, things you can and can't say, can and can't do?
No, it's not regulated. So that's part of the fun is it's free. You can say what you want, and there's no FCC to fine you or anything like that, other than getting nasty emails from people who didn't like what you said. But
wow.
Woohoo.
So you took podcasting, in my mind, to a whole new level by starting an actual internet radio station. Does it take a lot of money to do that? What does that investment look like in time and resources?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else. You can start a business on a shoestring budget, but you have to kind of have an expectation that you get out of it what you put in. Is it expensive to launch? No, it's relatively inexpensive, but the branding aspect of it, marketing, meeting with people. So there's a time investment depending on what you want to get out of it. The short answer to your question is not expensive, but I think what I've tried to do is really put some strategy and effort and dollars behind the brand so that we can slowly build with the expectation that it's going to take time. Sometimes people start things and they expect it to explode right away. And sometimes it does. Most times it doesn't.
Right.
So I came into this knowing that this could take some time.
How did you learn about it, though? How did you say, okay, you had this inspiration to do this? I mean, is there resources that you went and looked for of how do you even get starting your own radio station?
Mm-hmm. The first thing that I did was I really searched and figured out why. Why am I starting this station? Because I think when you start with the why, you could withstand the slow times and the times where you're like, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? My why keeps me going. It's like, okay, I realize I want to cultivate, communicate, and connect. So this brand is important, not only for my show, but for other shows. I get an opportunity to help other shows communicate, cultivate, and connect. So I think having the why is extremely important and understanding that it's going to take time.
So at the top of the show, I kind of set you up by saying, why should companies pay attention to internet radio? In your opinion, why should they? What's in it for them?
Number one, when you talk about branding, when you talk about different platforms, internet radio listeners are a bit different than podcast listeners, and they're a bit different than traditional radio listeners. So as many platforms that you can get your brand on and communicate with your tribe. I'm doing air quotes if you guys can't see me. The more of those types of things you can do, it can only help your brand.
I would suspect that for many companies, too, finding ways or avenues to get their message out becomes extremely difficult. It's flooded. There's so many people doing the same thing. I think internet radio is probably a different tool or venue for them to get their message out as well.
The gift and the curse of today's market, I think, is it's very segmented. So it's very tough to kind of nail down that market. But to your point, internet radio is a really good way to do that, because for a brand to launch its own channel, for example, on WQYL-DB radio, of course, it would be relatively simple to have 24/7 channel dedicated to your brand, where we could bring in talent to talk about the things that will highlight your brands.
You could help brands do that. I mean, if you're XYZ company and you want to talk to, like you said, business owners or entrepreneurs, like what your show does, they could create their own channel on your station.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
And they don't have to have it necessarily go out to the general public. It could be internal communications within their own company, too.
And podcasting is a good avenue to do that as well.
How do you find internet radio stations?
I use the typical ones. There's iTunes. We're on iTunes Radio, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. We're on there as well. So to be quite honest and transparent, I don't listen to a lot of the competition just because I'm a little that way. I'll
so
check
you haven't listened to us?
Well, I can listen to you guys. That's different. You guys, of course. But other internet radio stations, I'll check them out every now and then just to kind of see what the competition is doing. But when I do listen to internet radio, it's typically WQYL.
Do you have any idea how many internet radio stations there are? Thousands? Is it millions? Is it?
I would say hundreds of thousands. I would say most, if not all, of the traditional radio stations, they're streaming.
Correct.
But independent internet radio, I would say thousands. I don't have a quotable reference or resource for that.
Is there any licensing involved in starting a station?
It depends. Right now, we don't have a ton of music because that complicates things a lot. When you talk about licensing and paying sound exchange and royalties and all that good stuff. So to save the rest of my hair, I don't want to worry about that at this point. But we are looking to, in the future, incorporating some music into the station. But for now, we're really focused more on the talk side of the house.
Gotcha.
Do you think internet radio will become a popular source for creating more local content? Generally, your traditional radio stations like that, I mean, they're trying to really reach a broad audience. But I think I just look at this as being very niche-y. So we happen to live in the suburbs of Milwaukee. I mean, could you create a Delafield, Wisconsin channel or something like that?
You can't give out all the good marketing ideas, Dan.
Okay.
But that's what we're about, Brandstorm.
There you go. But that's exactly the point. It's relatively simple, with our help, of course, to do that, to have a locally branded internet radio station that.
Have you reached out to municipalities in trying to say that, okay, this, again, little small, I mean, I know there's small town radio, and I grew up, my first job was a small market radio station. But I'm talking about now really small communities within the larger scope of a Milwaukee Metro or Chicago
like
Metro or
Waukesha.
something like that, a Waukesha, or, again, drilling it down even to Delafield or Sussex or, really a small piece of a bigger metro area.
As of today, we have not. But apparently, we should sit down after the
show and talk about that
idea.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that there's a need. I mean, a lot of local cable access, you see that all the time, and you have your little town council, and why not do this from a standpoint of a local radio, a way of reach out to their communities, their taxpayers, their citizens.
Mm-hmm. I think we should do it.
Okay.
All right. Well, before we do tackle something like that, how can people find your station, Elzie?
Well, it's very easy. Just go out to the internet, whether you use Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, and just type in www.wqyl-db.com. Again, that's www.wqyl-db.com.
He likes saying WQYL so often he has to repeat them.
Right.
I just want to make sure people get it.
Well, it'll always be in the show notes, and people can link to it that way. But this has been a really, again, because I was originally a radio guy, it's a fascinating topic to me, and really thank you for your insight, giving our listeners a chance to maybe explore this opportunity with you or on their own or wherever they're going, because I think it is a real viable medium. You do accept advertisers too, correct? On in between shows and that type of stuff. How would they reach out to you specifically if they wanted to do that?
So first, the answer to your question, do I accept advertising? The answer is a resounding yes.
Of course.
If you want to reach out to me directly, my email address is Elzie, and that's ELZIEF, as in Frank, at WQYL-DB.com.
Thank you so much, Elzie. It's great having you on. And I just love the idea of creating more and more local content. I just think that's kind of the way of the future, and people should enjoy and pay attention to what's happening in their own communities. Anyways, to our listeners, if you like what you've heard, please don't forget to share, review, or subscribe to Brandstorm.
This is Dan Trzynski, along with Nancy Christopher at Platypus Advertising and Design, an awesome company that creates perceptions that influence choice for a variety of regional, national, and even global brands on a daily basis. We hope that you'll join us next week for another episode of Brandstorm.